My name is Erin Podvin, and on behalf of the Junior League of Athens, I do want to thank you for coming out tonight. I am the current president of the Junior League of Athens for about 14 more days. No, we are coming to the time of the year when we transition our membership. I have seen many active faces and some of our sustaining members in the audience, so thank you for being here this evening. The mission of the Junior League is to promote volunteerism, to develop the potential of women, and to improve our communities through the effective action of trained volunteers. So by the time you're president, you have to have that in your head, right? But we really do strive to try and do all of those things here in the community. And we think that engaging in what is going on in our community in the political process is one of the ways that you can do that as well. I think an informed citizenry is the best kind of citizenry to have around you. So we really wanted to do this. We had the opportunity to host a debate 4 years ago. Mayor Denson will remember there were 5 candidates up here. So that was a different dynamic than what we have this evening. But we are very honored that you all are spending this evening with us, and thank you for being here. I do want to mention that should you, and gentlemen, I'm sorry that at this moment I'm going to alienate you, but should we have any women in the audience tonight who would be interested in finding out more about getting involved in our organization, I encourage you and welcome you to come speak to me or any of the women who will be up here tonight. Anybody with a name tag. If Alicia will raise her hand. Alicia Battle is our president-elect, soon to take the helm. So we would love to chat with you about some of the things that we're doing in this community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn things over to Carla Colquitt, and she is our Public Affairs Committee Chair. Thank you all very much. Oh, sorry, one point of logistics. Restroom over there, 2 restrooms upstairs. You're welcome. The house is open. There are up the stairs, either to your right or to your left, so you'll find them. And yes, volunteers will be collecting questions. And so if y'all kind of raise your hands, we'll have folks moving around the room. So thank you.
Good evening. It's always great. Thank you, Erin.
Yes.
And again, thanks the community for coming out and embracing this mayoral debate. And it is our pleasure and privilege to both have you in the house here tonight to get a grasp of the Junior League. But what we do as far as the Public Affairs Committee, that's what I'm going to talk to you about just for a tidbit, is that as we work in the community, we also have our fingers on the pulse of what's going on. We have goals and outcomes and objectives that we look forward to every year on a local level, but also a state level. And what those are is we align ourselves, we support issues, not candidates, on locally and the state legislation area to make sure that these issues that we are focused on address what our goals and outcomes are. And with that, within the league here locally, we do have a public affairs committee that works with the legislation and looks at what's going on in the local scene too. So again, it is our pleasure and privilege to have both of you in the house tonight and to be part of this, and we are excited to host this. Should you again be interested in the league, be sure to get a hold of us at any time before the fall if you miss or if you have someone in your family that would be interested, not to alienate the men, but to also extend out and maybe you have someone in your family that would be interested. Again, it is our pleasure and privilege to have you here. The Public Affairs Committee works year-round with the community and what's going on, so we're excited again. Monique here on the front row is going to be your timekeeper. She's going to go over some rules and things like that. And then Jen Register is our co-chair of the Public Affairs, and we're so excited to have her leadership always. So she is going to moderate tonight to keep everything flowing and going. And we are again going to look at the questions and have you guys collect them and go over them and present them to you from the floor. So again, thank you for being here with us tonight. Thank you, community, for being here tonight. Monique?
I guess before Monique starts, what we're going to do is do a quick coin toss so we know who is going to start with their introduction. and that is going to play into part of the rules. So give us 1 second while we find a coin. We should have done that before. Come on. All right. So, yep, would you like to call heads or tails?
Heads.
All right. Heads it is.
Okay.
So you can either begin with your introduction or you can go second.
I think I'll go second.
Okay, perfect.
So it's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm thankful that everybody has shown up and are ready to start.
You got it.
1 second to it.
Just like the Super Bowl.
So the first person to speak was decided by the coin toss. The winner of the toss was Mayor Denson, and she's decided that she would like to speak second during the opening statements. Candidate Denson has decided that they would like to speak first with the closing remarks. So we'll begin with the opening statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for their opening. We'll then move to questions, beginning with 5 questions from the moderator. Each respondent will have 2 minutes to speak, followed by 1 minute for rebuttals. After the moderator's questions, we'll move to the audience's questions. We will take 5 to 6 audience questions and follow the same format. Each respondent will have 2 minutes to speak, followed by 1 minute for closing statements. Please be aware that candidates are allowed to use devices such as tablets or smartphones to refer to notes, but we have asked that the devices not be connected to the internet. Candidates have been advised that if either party would like to request that the other demonstrate to the moderator that their device is on airplane mode, hence not online, at the start of the debate, that such a request can be made and the moderator will honor that. We kindly ask that the audience please refrain from applause or commentary until the conclusion of the debate following the final closing statements.
All right, we ready to begin? Monique is going to be sitting in the front of the audience here. She is going to be keeping time for us, and that time will be kept on some index cards here, and they're different colors, so we're going to be aware of the amount of time that we have. We're going to give a warning at 1 minute, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and then stop. Just so we're all on the same page with that. How do I sound? Can everybody hear me okay? I'm not going to hold the mic up. Okay, great. The first 5 questions that we have came from members of the Junior League. We polled the Junior League, we had them send us suggestions, we compiled the suggestions, and these questions are things that women within the Junior League and within the community want to hear both of you speak about. So to start, we are going to start with opening statements, and that is going to be first given by candidate Denson. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jennifer, for moderating this, and thank you, Aaron, for reaching out to us to have this event. This is fantastic, and all the other members of the Junior League. I appreciate giving us this chance to come and speak to you. I'm running for mayor for quite a few reasons. 46,080 reasons that I'm running for mayor. That's 46,080 individuals we have under the poverty line here in Athens, Clarke County. That's 46,080 men, women, and children who struggle to make sure they have reliable, affordable transit and transportation to get to their jobs, their educational opportunities, get their kids to school. That's 46,080 individuals who have to struggle to make sure they have healthy foods on the table to eat for their family. That's 46,080 individuals who have families, who have to make choices on, are we going to have a safe learning environment for my child to have childcare while they're young? Or am I going to go off and seek that extra job because they can't do both? And that decision shouldn't have to be made here. And a community that has as much wealth, and a state that has as much wealth, and a country that has as much wealth as this, that is ridiculous and preposterous that they have to make that choice. So those are the reasons that I'm running for mayor here in Athens, Clarke County. Because that's a 38% poverty rate. 38%. We can't stand for that. I grew up in South Florida, the son of 2 preachers, and they taught me that you put others before yourself. You have to have a strong community and make sure you're reaching out and every person in your community is being taken care of. Because if your community is not strong, then you're not strong. Your family's not strong. We rely on each other. And that's why the main idea behind my campaign is to make an Athens for everyone. An Athens that works for every single individual in this community, no matter what their race is, no matter what their religion is, their income status, their gender, their sexual orientation, their documentation status. It shouldn't matter. They should feel welcome and safe in this community. And we should be building that Athens for everyone. And we have to be building it together. Not from the top down. Not from me just, if I'm elected, putting out orders to make sure this happens. Us working together as a community. Talking to each other. Figuring out, first, what are the problems? What are the issues here? And then also figuring out, what are the solutions? And those solutions need to make sure we have a bias towards action. Solutions that we can actually act upon so that we can see those actions going out into our community and working for every single person here. Because we're on a cusp of change. This community is changing, our state is changing, the economy is changing. We're obviously going to be looking at a large population growth here in Athens, Clarke County, and that's fantastic. But we need to make sure that we are taking care of everyone here. We have to make sure we have the infrastructure in place for that. And we have to make sure that we have an Athens that works for every person here. And the way I've been making sure that happens, that we're making sure that we are reaching out to every single person and making a community that works for every person, is how my campaign's been going on. We've been going to people's homes, having conversations on people's doorsteps about what their problems are and what they think needs to be happening and how we can be working together to do that. And we've been talking about the different tools that are able for us to use. There are tools that are at our disposal that we could be using to fight that poverty, to make that Athens for everyone. And I look forward over the next hour or so to tell you more about those tools and so you can hear more about them. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now Mayor Denson.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? I don't have quite the projection that Tim does, but I'll try. My vision for Athens is an Athens where everyone who wants a job has a job. I'm just as concerned about poverty as Mr. Denson is, as anybody in this community is. And I've been working on that for 40 years in this community. As many of you may know, Mr. Denson referred to people having healthy food to eat and enough food to eat. 35 years ago, I along with a half dozen other women, established Athens Area Emergency Food Bank, and the first food storage was actually in my garage. And that has grown into an emergency food bank that feeds individuals, but also a regional food bank that provides food to agencies and throughout the Northeast Georgia region. And we distribute millions of pounds of food a year to needy individuals. I helped to establish the Child Abuse Council, which helps to teach mothers, even while they're still in the hospital, how to properly care for their children and give them child-rearing skills. But it also teaches those children, once they get up old enough to understand what's appropriate behavior to them by other people. But the only way to me that we can eliminate poverty is through two things: through jobs and education. And the education piece of it is somewhat out of the purview of local government, because we have an elected school board that assesses its own taxes and makes the decisions about education in this community. But as an adjunct to that, I've been working for years through the school system, through the PTA groups, through a number of organizations, and supporting our school system. But I'm also a member of Whatever It Takes. I'm on the board of Whatever It Takes, which is an organization. When I'm trying to talk this loud, I've got pollen there, I'm having a hard time. Which is an organization that our goal is that by 2020, every child in Athens, Clarke County will be graduating from high school and on track to go to a post-secondary education of some kind, either to college, to trade school, or into the military, to do something where they are pursuing their lives. But economic development still is going to be constantly a focus of mine, because bringing jobs to this community so that people can, once they've got the education, have an opportunity to have a job is that second piece of that pie. And so I'm out of time, so thank you all.
Thank you all both so much. Also, if we'd like to use the microphone, all we need to do is just turn it on, and I don't want anybody to lose their voice. So if you feel that you're projecting and it's getting difficult, we can turn it on. However, as my husband tells me, I have a loud voice, so I'm not going to use it. Okay, so we're going to start with question number 1, and that is, as our community continues to grow, how would you like to see the development of Athens progress? And how will you work with developers or community partners to accomplish these goals? And we're going to start with Tim Denson. Thank you.
Community development is definitely going to be one of the biggest goals we're going to be seeing over here, especially over the next decade. We're going to have to be finding a good way that everyone in the community is happy with for us building up a dense population, especially around the downtown corridors, so that we can be, building up in a safe way, but everything's going to be still reachable. People can be therefore a more walkable community, a more bikeable community. People rely on public transit more to get around. And that is going to have to be a fine line we're going to have to walk, because we have to want to make sure that people here in Athens are happy with that kind of development. And we also want to make sure that kind of development is good for our community and our environment. We need to make sure that it's efficient when it comes to energy usage, efficient when it comes to water usage, and that we're also making buildings here that are going to be here for a while. We don't want to see these developments building up that are just built to be around for about 10 years and then probably going to fall into disrepair. I want to see the kind of buildings that are being for a long time, like the buildings we see down Clayton Street that are just so beautiful that we love, that make up our downtown. So there's different ways that we could be doing that. One of the things I would like to see us do is that we could be working with a third party for oversight when it comes to our planning and development. We could have a certification such as ASHRAE, or we could also figure out some way to work with LEEDs or something similar to LEEDs that we could be moving forward with our development that way. We actually have something that's been presented. The former mayor, Heidi Davidson, actually had the green building ordinance that was brought up. And that was something that was never voted on. I believe it's still been on the agenda for quite some time now, I think, but still has not been brought up for a vote. And it's something I've actually met with a number of the members of the board that actually formed that ordinance, and they think that we could easily revisit it, tweak it a little bit, because things have changed. Tweak it a little bit, and still be using that same green building ordinance to make sure that our buildings here are, like I said, are energy efficient and water efficient, especially when it comes to the water. We're going to be seeing a big water shortage probably happening worldwide over the next couple of decades. And we want to make sure that we're taking the steps now to make sure we're prepared for that, not trying to play catch up 10, 20 years later after the problems are already here. We need to be prepared. We need to make sure our development is preparing us for that too, and we need to make sure our community is happy with that development.
Yes, there's been a lot of discussion about protecting our downtown, and our downtown is the crown jewel of our community. And one of the things we don't have to worry about is the old 100-year-old or so buildings, our central downtown, because it's already protected by historic preservation ordinance. So those buildings can be maintained, but you either have to grow or you die. And years ago, our mayor and commission made a decision, which I think was probably a good decision, to push density into the center courts of the community, where it's easier to provide services, both water, sewer, buses, all kinds of services are easier to deliver in a dense core of the city. But when we start having development, like all of the apartments that are coming in Athens, and we have good building codes here. We don't have buildings that are going to be falling down in 10 years. We have good, solid building codes in Athens. And when we bring more people in town, they're going to be demanding more services, which are going to drive retail around our center core, and retail begets more retail. So we will probably see, and I think certainly we'll see, some of the bars and turning into retail establishments. But all of our apartment buildings that are going in, or residential buildings that are going in around the core downtown, have to have retail on the bottom. So when you have more people coming to shop retail, they pass other retails there, and so it drives the retail community, so that we're going to have that kind of development we want downtown, like grocery stores and and laundries and all the things that provide the needs that we have every day. But what I want to see happen in Athens is for us to be a sustainable, enjoyable community to be in. And we have a water ordinance that encourages conservation of water. I serve on the Oklahoma Water Basin Authority, which we are charged with making sure that we have water in our community through a reservoir that we built in conjunction with two other counties. So yes, I want a sustainable, enjoyable, beautiful community to be in. I think we have that now, and I think we will build on a good basis that we have already.
Thank you. Now we have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Okay. Well, and I think a lot of the things that me and the mayor just said, we agree on, that we are going to have a denser population. But I think the thing we don't agree on is that we need to be doing more. When it comes to water conservation, we need to be, once again, like I said, have a bias towards action. Be moving forward to make sure we're taking steps now to prepare us for the future. We can't just be dragging our feet, thinking that everything is just going to go the way that we hope it does, without actually taking steps and putting together policies that are going to lead to the kind of developments and the kind of conservation, especially when it comes to water conservation and energy conservation, that we need. So the biggest thing I think that to respond to that question would be to be putting a green building ordinance in place, like has already been brought up, like has been on our agenda, but our commission and mayor still have not voted on. And I think that would be the first step, and it's a good step. It's a step that other communities are happening, and I think actually it would help us promote and drive businesses, and I think it'll help us actually bring in a lot of people here, because they'll see that we are concerned about the quality of life. We are forward thinking, and we are preparing our community for a 21st century technology, 21st century jobs.
And I will tell you that we are not dragging our feet. We had a water conservation committee that has worked with our industries. Many of our industries in Athens have spent thousands of dollars to conserve water and to become more energy efficient in many ways. But I will tell you that we talked about the Caterpillar project a lot. With Caterpillar, after Caterpillar had already decided to come into our community, they came back to us and wanted significantly more water, many times over the amount of water that we had agreed to provide. And when I looked at it, I said, why do we need to provide that much water? And it was what I considered an irresponsible use of water. And I said, no, we cannot do that. And we worked with Caterpillar, and what they were planning to do was use water cooling towers for their air conditioning system, which 85% of the water would have evaporated. And for our community, I said no. And we worked out a compromise with them where they're going to be using water from their roofs and digging wells. And they're going to be able to do what they needed to do without us having to be irresponsible and allow water to be used that was going to be evaporating out of our system and not be able to be reused.
Thank you. The next question is going to address the focus of the Junior League, which is literacy. What initiatives would you like to see implemented or supported in order to increase the literacy rate here in Athens? Mayor Denson, I'm going to have you start.
Well, I mentioned earlier that I'm a part of whatever it takes. I'm on board with whatever it takes. And one of the things that I feel so good about that program is that over the 30 or so years that I've been in Athens, I have sat in so many rooms where there were middle-class white people trying to figure out what to do for poor black people and come up with a program. Here it is. And whatever it takes does is we're going into the communities asking, what do you need to make you successful? And we're working from the bottom up, from the families out to address literacy. But I've been dealing with literacy issues for my whole life in Athens as well. My husband and I used to deliver packages to all the new babies in Athens Regional St. Mary's Hospital, 350 babies a month. And every one of those packages that we had a box in it. I support Books for Keeps. I have been involved in literacy for my whole adult life. I go into our schools very frequently and read to students and encourage parents to read to students. That's a part of the child abuse counselors teaching people teaching parents to be good parents, and a part of that program is talking to them about reading to their children, how important that is for the development of that child. So I'm again working with the school system. I'm encouraging programs that exist, and I've been instrumental in actually starting the literacy programs here in our community.
Thank you. Candidate Denson.
Literacy is empowerment, and empowerment is what our campaign is all about. We're trying to empower individuals in our community, children all the way up to adults. And my day job, outside of being like a community organizer here in Athens, is working at Barnes & Noble. I run the digital department over there. And one of my main things I have to do is I run the accounts for Oconee County, Jackson County, Banks County, Jefferson City Schools, their Title I reading, so that we can make sure that they have the kind of books they need in place, and also are ready for technology. We've been putting e-readers and tablets into their hands, these children's hands. So they're reading, but they're also figuring out how to be using these technology devices, because those are two things that are going to be necessary for these children's future. To be able to access and work around, the kind of technology we have coming out here, but also, of course, literacy is important. But not just literacy with children, literacy with adults also, and especially literacy in families. I think that is the key there. To actually have literacy being something that a family cares about. Having parents that read to their children. Having parents that recommend books to their kids. They get excited about books. They get excited about reading. And that's other things I've done. I've worked with the World Book Night, which just passed, I believe, last week. I've done that for a couple of years, which is amazing, where publishers and authors just give out thousands and thousands of books. And just people in the community. And you take these books, and you get about 20, I think, each individual gets 20 books. And you just take them throughout the community, and you give away books. It's amazing. I remember I got, I think last year I did, I think Fahrenheit. No. I can't remember which one I did. But anyways, I got this book, and I went down to, all over town, I went down into the Rock Springs neighborhood, and just started going down. A bunch of kids, a bunch of teenagers were playing basketball at the basketball court. Just came out and started handing out books to them. They thought it was awesome. At first they thought there was some kind of, they're like, what are you trying to do? You're trying to get some money from me? I was like, no, just have a book. Just read a book. This book's amazing. I love this book. You'll love this book. And that's sharing empowerment, that's sharing information. And I've also worked with Books for Keeps also. It's a fantastic organization. Barnes & Noble collects thousands of books every year and hands them out during Christmas. And Books for Keeps is one of the organizations that we work with, make sure that we can get books in these children's hands. And I've been out there when we've delivered them to the schools, and to see the smiles on the kids' faces is amazing. But I also want to make sure something we can be doing on the ground level through the local government level too, though, is making sure that we are supporting our library systems as much as we possibly can, especially any kind of ideas, which I know we actually have some of these kind of things, and there's some programs out there which are about family reading, especially getting some people out, families that are English as a second language families, getting those people in the libraries and speaking to those people, make sure that they are grasping English as a family and reading and enjoying that together. And to see these parents grow alongside the children is just an amazing process. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help the library system to also do that. And because, like I said, literacy is empowerment, and we want an empowered community.
Okay. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, I think there's very little disagreement with Mr. Denson now on the need for literacy. But I will say, as far as Athens Regional Library, as a mayor and commission, we already support the Athens Regional Library. In fact, I increased the amount of money in the budget this year for Athens Regional Library because we've added on to it. They're having extra expenses for utilities and for maintenance on the library, and they've also had to absorb some costs for insurance. And so I did not want them to have to sacrifice the books and the learning portion of the library. So with some tough choices to make in the budget, I actually have increased the amount of money going to our Athens Regional Library.
Tim Denson?
Sure. So yeah, I mean, I think Mayor Denson's right. We both definitely see that literacy is a key idea we have here. I also forgot my wonderful wife, Jenny's back there, actually volunteered at the library there in Alps for years, and it was a fantastic experience for her, and I was very proud of her doing that. And I just want to make sure that we're doing everything we are. I'd like to see if we can actually increase the number of hours that we have these libraries open for. Because I have, while I've been out there talking to people, going door to door, I've had I've had 2 individuals tell me that they feel like that the hours should be a little more, that they sometimes have trouble, especially going across town, especially if they're having to rely on the bus system and only comes by once an hour. by getting across town, sometimes it's not as easy for them to get in there and go to the library because the hours are limited, especially on the weekends. So I just want to make sure we're doing everything we can because literacy should be a high priority for our local government.
Wonderful. Thanks so much. Our next question. Those surrounding counties have recently seen a huge jump in their development in the last few years, both for business and residential purposes. Many residents seem to have made the jump from Athens-Clarke County to these counties. What are your plans to entice both people and businesses to choose to remain in Athens? We're going to start with candidate Denson.
We have seen this, and I've talked to a number of individuals about this, and asked them, should we be concerned here with, especially the Epps Ridge Parkway development over Oconee County? And for the most part, I've been hearing from people, it's just a fad. The new development is there. People are going to be moving over there. Businesses are going to be moving over there. But I'm not worried because I know Athens is a destination city. Businesses and people want to be here in Athens. That's why I'm here. I moved here from Florida, 10 years ago because I had fallen in love with Athens, and this is my home, and this will be my home because I love this community. I know this happens to a lot of other people, and a lot of other businesses too. But there are things that we could be doing to encourage those businesses to be coming here to Athens instead of these other areas. We can maybe make sure our infrastructure is a better place, especially when it comes to technology. To have high-speed internet, fiber optic internet here would be just a boon for Athens County. It's something that the other counties around us can't compete with. And the fact that we have the University of Georgia here, spitting out all these amazingly smart and entrepreneurs and these amazing people coming out of our engineering school. We have the talent here, but we're lacking the infrastructure here. We want to make sure we're keeping those students here. And so instead of when they graduate, they go off seeking jobs in California or Oregon. We want them to stay here. I know they want to stay here because Athens is amazing, and there's no reason they want to move away from this place outside of the money and outside of looking for a job. We got to make sure we are offering the jobs here so we can keep those people here, so we can have them raise their families here, so we can have them buy homes here, so that we have them have their tax dollars come here. And one of the things, like I said, is if we get a fiber optic cable coming through here. I don't know if you guys are probably familiar with Google Fiber, the Google Fiber project, in which the third wave of finalists was just announced for who's going to get Google Fiber. And out of those finalists, there were 6 cities in Georgia. 6 Georgia cities were on that list, out of, I believe, 18 cities total. Guess what city wasn't on that list? Athens, Georgia. Guess what city didn't apply for that? Athens, Georgia. We could be doing more, especially when it comes to the infrastructure here. Because part of my economic development plan, is more than just trying to get businesses like Caterpillar from here. That's part of it. We have to be doing that. We have to be trying to bring those businesses in here. But we can't rely on companies based out of Indiana and other states to drive our economy in Athens, Georgia. We should be driving our economy in Athens, Georgia from Athens, Georgia. So we need to be focusing on those kind of jobs, bringing in those companies, but also making sure that we are fostering tech businesses, especially engineering businesses, especially here. And we could be doing that by actually funding a tech incubator here, much what like is downtown already with For Athens, a private entity, in which I met with the director of For Athens, and he says, we need money, we need more support. The county government could be doing more for us, just like it's doing for incubators in Chattanooga, just like it's doing for incubators in Birmingham and Charleston. Those places have local government tax dollars going to that incubator and actually showing that our community, our people of Athens are invested in our economy here. So that's a couple of infrastructure. That's something we could be doing.
Mayor Denson?
Thank you. It's quite interesting that one of the things that Mr. Denson addressed at the end of his few minutes here was For Athens. I'm on the Downtown Development Authority, and we made a decision to subsidize rent for small businesses through For Athens. So we're actually and these are tax dollars that go from Athens-Clarke County to the Downtown Development Authority that then go into For Athens actually is an incubator. It's a comprehensive group where small businesses can go in with a centralized receptionist and business model, and then have small offices where they don't have the expense until they can grow into a bigger operation. And one of the things that I find interesting about about my opponent is that it seems like every other sentence is about spending more money. You know, we need to spend money on incubators. We need to increase the bus system. We need to increase the library hours. We need to provide daycare. And I have asked, and I have never gotten a good answer, as to where do these dollars come from? Because we have one way that we can increase increase the income into our community. There are two ways. One way is raise taxes, and when you raise taxes, we push people out of the county. The question was about people leaving and moving into other counties. Both businesses and homes are going to leave the county if you start getting your tax structure where it's not in balance with other counties. But the other way is to make that pie bigger. And I've been working to make that pie bigger through trying to bring jobs and make an atmosphere here where people want to invest in our community. And we are having investment in our community. In the last 2 years that I've been in office, we have more than doubled our business licenses. In the time that I've been in office, we've reduced our unemployment rate from 8.1% to 5.1%, 3 full percentage points, the lowest in the state, probably one of the lowest in the country. So we are doing the right things. We're on the right track. We need to keep pushing forward. There's always more to do. And the best measure of future success is past performance. And you've seen me perform as your mayor for 3 years, but you've also seen me perform in elected office and working for our community for 35 years. And I intend to continue doing that and put you first.
We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Yeah. For Athens is a second mayor, as I said in my first response. But, like I said, when I talked to Jim, when I went over there and talked to Jim Flannery, he said, you could be doing enough help, you could be helping us more. He said you could be doing two things. The county government could be investing in the tech companies here. A good way to do that would be through For Athens, showing that the county and the people here are investing. He said that's the first thing that when we have these venture capitalists looking at where they want to invest, the first thing they look for is, well, is the community investing first? They don't want to throw their money into something that we want to get behind. They want to make sure we're getting behind first. Jim said we'd be doing more. And I do have a good answer for how we could be paying for it. Because we already have $500,000 coming through our Economic Development Center. Jim was aware of this. I was aware of this. So we talked about this. He said if you could just be pulling 10% of that each year, $50,000, and putting that in as investing in tech incubation businesses, tech businesses, that after 10 years, we'd be looking at getting back 10 to 20-fold. 10 to 20-fold. It's an investment. It's an investment.
Thank you. Mayor Denson?
Well, that data is very debatable because new businesses have a huge failure rate, especially the very small businesses, especially the tech businesses. And we are already investing money in those businesses. We're already investing tax money in it. And the answer always seems to be more and more money, but the answer is the $500,000 that's in our Economic Development Foundation is significantly less than other communities of our size are putting in economic development. And if we're going to be competitive, we're going to have the resources there to do it. We need to have an industrial park. When businesses go to communities, very often we have lost potential businesses because we don't have a developed industrial park. So of course, there are always everybody that's doing anything, whether it's small business or large business, says, well, there's this pot of money over there, I want part of it. I think that the investment we're making in economic development now, that $500,000 is a good investment.
Thank you. Okay, question number 4 deals with education. How do you plan to work with the superintendent to ensure that the Athens-Clarke County public school system will continue to improve? Are there certain milestones that you feel need to be achieved in the short term, and what are the steps to getting there? Let's see. Mayor Denson, you start this time, right?
Well, as I said earlier, our Clarke County school system has its own elected school board. It has a superintendent. It has its own taxing authority, and so there's there's limited amount that the county government can do as far as the school system. But I encourage the school system. I have made myself available to speak to classes. I go to all kinds of events in our school system to encourage our students, and I support what the school system is doing. But again, it's primarily emotional support or being a cheerleader for the schools. And that in fact, as far as being a cheerleader for schools, that's one of the best things that the mayor can do, and I have been doing, because there was a huge misperception in this community about our schools when I came into office. I heard constantly talk about our failing schools. Our schools in this community are doing absolutely amazing things. And what I've been doing is where I've gone, I have talked about the amazing things our schools are doing. Our graduation rate is increasing. And I keep harking back to whatever it takes, because that group is doing the kind of things that will help our schools. One of the things that they were the impetus for getting laptops for all of our students. Next year, every student in Clark County schools will have their own laptop that they can take home, an electronic device, so that they can have those skills that Mr. Denson talked about. But the difference between our low achieving students and our high achieving students is narrowing dramatically. And if you look at the trend lines, the lines are not going like this, they're going like this, where the bottom level is catching up with the top level. So I think the absolute best thing that I can do as mayor, and the best thing the city can do, anybody that the city can do, because again, it is an independent organization with its own taxing ability, its own board, and its own superintendent, but that we can tell the story of what a wonderful school system we've got. There's a young lady sitting here, Ms. Arrowwood, who just received the Youth Volunteer Award of the year from the Junior League here, and she's working with the peer courts, and that's something I support and have supported, which is a wonderful organization. So there's a lot going on that's good in our community, and in some cases all I can do is talk about it, make sure people understand it, to change the conversation, because the conversation was wrong. And I'm trying to change the conversation so people understand what a wonderful community we have and what a wonderful school system we have.
Thank you.
The mayor can be more than just a cheerleader. I want to make sure that we're having a meeting every single semester between the mayor and the commission, with the superintendent and the school board, every single semester, so that I can go to the superintendent and the school board members and say, Coach, put me in wherever you need me to go, because I want to do more than just sit on the sidelines. And some of the ways that we can be doing that is, for one, tackling poverty. It is actually shown that students growing up in poverty, it has very similar development problems as a child that has PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So that is something we could be doing right there. And also that children in the lowest fifth economic income status have a 5 times higher rate of dropout than the kids in the highest fifth income-wise. If we have that 38% poverty rate, then we have a problem there with our dropout rate and our graduation rate too. They're tied together. And Mayor Denson brought up the laptops, and that is fantastic, and I'm glad we're moving toward that direction. But I've also talked to a couple of the school board members, and they said, yeah, we're getting these devices in the children's hands, but the sad thing is a lot of these kids don't have internet. And this material is internet cloud-based. You can't get to it unless you have internet. You want to go back to infrastructure, the infrastructure is part of that. We can make sure we have internet. We've had a couple of the school board members said, like, in their dream, the best thing they could be doing was to make sure that we had actually wireless internet somehow provided here. That is a big goal. I admit, it is a big goal. But we should be looking towards big goals. Because I believe this is an ambitious community. I'll be an ambitious mayor. And I believe that we can achieve those ambitious goals that are going to help every single one of our students. You want to help our graduation rate. You want to help those kids in school. Let's get them the infrastructure. Let's get them the technology they need so that they can actually succeed. Because those kids want to succeed. Those kids deserve to succeed. And I want to make sure that I'm doing every single thing I can to help them succeed.
All right, we have a 1-minute rebuttal. And before we begin, we need to collect the last of any questions that the audience has for candidates. Thank you. Aaron's here in the back. Yes, please begin.
I was trying to give y'all a few minutes to get the cards back. Well, actually, we meet on a regular basis with the school board. It's not a quarterly basis, and if you haven't been there, you have no idea how difficult it is to schedule quarterly meetings with two large bodies. There are 10 school board members, superintendents, staff people. There are 10 county commissioners, mayor, and staff people, and to schedule that number of people for quarterly meetings is very difficult. But I have very regular meetings with Dr. Lanoux. We talk on the telephone on a regular basis. In fact, we had a short conversation this afternoon about something, and so there is open communication between the mayor and the superintendent, and I do more than just cheerlead. I have also said, I don't say coach, here I am. I say superintendent, here I am. If you need me to go into a classroom, if you need me to write letters of support for any kind of programs you're having, for any kind of grants, I do those kind of things. And again, we don't disagree on a lot of our dreams for this community. We disagree on how to get them done.
Thank you. A rebuttal? Oh, wait, did you already have your rebuttal?
Did I?
No.
No.
I think you started,
yeah.
you responded, rebuttal. Yep.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so we're all blending together on all the questions.
We know it. Denson had a rebuttal. But yeah, I just wanted therefore just talk a little more about that importance, though, of the technology aspect. Because some of the people I've talked to, and we've been going door to door, some of the parents I've talked to, they've talked about, there's a lot of concerns about the Common Core curriculum going out here. There's a lot of concerns. I had a lot of parents talking about how, my kid's not bringing home a textbook anymore, and it worries me. So like I said, I talked to a few of the school board members, like Linda Davis and a few other people, and it came out that there really isn't textbooks anymore. That's the thing, is with going to the Common Core curriculum, there's just not textbooks anymore. It's not the way it works. It doesn't work like the way that most of us went back to school. I mean, it's changing. So therefore, most of that curriculum, while they have books that they can take home that touches on things, that can be a guiding idea, most of that stuff is based on the cloud internet. And therefore, I think that once that information came into my mind, that just jumped way up on the ladder of infrastructure needs that we must have. And I know that need is also present with the school board and the superintendent, and I think that we should be working together because it's going to have to happen. It's something that has to be happening if we want our children to succeed.
Thank you. All right, we have one more moderator question, and then we're going to turn to the questions from the audience. We've collected them, we've gathered them, and we're going through them right now. We're hoping to get through 5, if time permits. The last question from the moderator, and we're going to start this time with candidate Denson, is how do you plan to address the crime rate in Athens? Thank you.
I might start sounding like a broken record a little bit, but you address the crime rate by addressing the poverty rate. I sat down with Chief Lumpkin a couple weeks ago, and we sat down for an hour and talked about these kind of things, how we could be addressing crime. And the first thing out of his mouth was, you address the poverty rate. That is the first thing. You take away poverty, you take away a lot of the crime that bothers you. You're stuck with a little bit of crime, but it's a lot more of, it's less happening in communities. It doesn't affect people as much, that kind of crime. So if we want to address the crime here, we address poverty. And it's something we have to do. Like I said, these families are struggling, and they're put into situations that, honestly, I can't even imagine. And the choices that they have to make, trying to figure out ways to get by for their families and stuff. We need to address this poverty rate for multiple reasons, but definitely for the crime. Because that's the other thing, is that a lot of us think like, oh, well, I'm not in poverty. It's not as big an issue for me. It is. That affects everyone here. That poverty rate affects everyone outside of poverty through those crime rates, through those the drop in our graduation rates. It affects us with our workforce. It weakens our workforce. Those people don't have the same kind of education levels, the same kind of opportunities. It affects every one of us in so many different ways. And if we want to bring down crime, and like I said, Chief Lumpkin said, we bring down the poverty. Another thing we could be doing, and once again, Chief Lumpkin was all ears on this one too, is we could be implementing badge cameras for all of our officers. We're slowly moving towards it, but once again, it's not a high enough priority. We have, right now, I think he said about 15% of our officers have them. The great thing about these badge cameras is that, one thing, it helps the members of our community. It lowers by, I think it was a 60% drop, actually I think it was a 40% drop in the amount of times that force had to be used by officers. 40% drop there. That's amazing. And then it also dropped, I believe this was a 60% drop, it dropped by 60% the number of complaints and suits that were brought against the police forces that were doing these things. Right there, it makes it efficient for our police force, it makes it better and safer for our community, it helps everyone. And once again, we could be doing this for, it's not nearly as expensive as we think. And right now, we could be simply shifting part of our funding that we already have for the police department. Like I said, Chief Lumpkin was open to this because he definitely sees it as a high priority. And having that money go towards putting the badge cameras and getting them out there faster. Right now, I think he said that they're looking at probably getting 20 more officers every 6 months with the badge cameras. We need to be working faster on that, though, because like I said, the benefits we'll be getting from these are huge and obvious.
That's it.
There are so many things that get better incrementally when you put more money into it. And that's, you know, I've dealt with balancing the county budget for 4 years now. Prior to that, I was tax commissioner for 26 years. I looked in the faces of people that were having difficulty paying their taxes and understood the sacrifices that they're making to pay those taxes. And increasing taxes is something that I will never say I'll never increase taxes because there's circumstances under which you need to, but that would be an absolute last resort. So when you're faced with two things, you know, you can make the pie bigger, which I'm working very hard to do, to increase investment in your community, so you have more property to tax and more people to contribute, or you can raise taxes, or you can cut services if you want to put in additional services. And this year in my budget. In the county's budget, we put $3.2 million into what we call secondary agencies. And I would like to know which of these kind of things Mr. Denson would like to cut in order to do the things he talks about doing. And these are the agencies that I've funded money for. Advantage Behavioral, Athens Cultural Affairs Commission, Athens Downtown Development Authority, Athens Neighborhood Health Center, Athens Regional Library, Clark County Health Department, Council on Aging, Community Connection, Department of Family and Children's Services, Greenway Commission, Oconee Rivers Greenway Commission, and Project SAFE for the first time. I put some money into Project SAFE for a specific program that they had a need for this year, which is safety. Crime has been going down in Clark County, not up. And when our unemployment rate goes down and our building investment goes up, we are attacking poverty there, and as we attack that poverty, we are seeing the rates go down. And is my time up? Oh, I'm sorry.
1 minute left.
Okay. I lost my train of thought here for a minute. But I mentioned one of the things in here, which is the Council on Aging, that I also increased slightly this year because again, there are only so many dollars. And it's a little bit here and a little bit there, and before you know it, it's big money. But I'll give you a story about the Council on Aging that puts in perspective what happens when you do small changes in something. I had a lady that I've known for many years, lived in Winterville, called me crying, and she said, "Nancy, can you please call the Council on Aging and get me on the list for Meals on Wheels? I have hospice with me now, and I don't have enough to eat." And she's been on the waiting list for 2 years because there's not enough money for the Meals on Wheels program in our community. And I called, and they made an exception, put her at the top of the list. She got to have meals for Meals on Wheels for 2 weeks before she died, and I saw her death notice in the paper this weekend.
Thank you. We have a 1 minute rebuttal.
I'm going to try to take us back over onto the crime issue here a little bit. One thing, we wouldn't have to be raising taxes, we could simply be reprioritizing, which is one of the big things we'd be doing. Reprioritizing part of our capital budget to pay for those badge cameras. That's what we do. Chief Lumpkin was open to it. He understood that idea. But we could also be reprioritizing our community ideas about spending. Right now we're spending $77 million on a jail expansion. $77 million. That's a lot of money. Jail expansion through our SPLOST money. Now that's something that was approved here by our community. But maybe that shouldn't be our priority. Maybe we should be spending, I don't know, $77 million in our education system. Make sure all of our kids have Wi-Fi. Another thing that we could be doing about crime is doing a sexual assault prevention task force, like is on my platform. Because I don't know if you guys saw the federal task force that's had their results come out. And they said that only 12% of sexual assaults are actually reported. We had 16 sexual assaults are reported at UGA last year. That means that actually we talked about 130. That's actually 3 sexual assaults every 3 days. We had sexual assault happening in UGA every 3 days.
Thank you.
We could be doing more.
Thank you. We have a 1 minute rebuttal.
I have one quick thing more that I would like to tell you about crime and about crime and addressing crime is that we have had I funded in the budget this year 18 full-time positions that have been funded through federal funds that were in the Stop Violence Against Women program. These are programs that were in our police department, in our solicitor's office, in the DA's office, but these were all jobs that we had short-term money through the federal government, and in order to keep those jobs in place that are effective and they're working and they're helping keep women safe, I funded those in a budget, and there was and the only other positions that were funded in the budget new this year are those that related to the opening of the new jail that was a citizen-determined priority for this community to build a jail. That was not something the Mayor Commission decided or that we can decide to change. And the other thing I funded is one additional position in the solicitor's office.
Thank you. I really appreciate the debate and the thoughts, and now what we're going to do is turn to the audience questions. What the committee did is go through all the questions that were provided. We tried to pick out questions that were issue-based, that can provide a robust debate between the parties. We want topics that we have not covered so far, and we tried to weed out anything that's directed towards one candidate or another. And so we're going to start with the first question, and I believe Mayor Denson is going to begin the response. Again, 2 minutes and a minute rebuttal each. First question from the audience. Since this government is run by commissioners, how do you plan on leading the commissioners towards your vision?
Well, so far we've worked as a team, and I'll hark back to the Caterpillar because within a year after I hadn't been in office quite a year when I got the first call from the Department of Economic Development saying we have a project that might work for you, and they told me it was very big and that it was for the Orkin tract. And actually, when I went to the manager, and asked him if I could share this with the manager this time, because they said it was very top secret at the time, and we didn't know what it was. So I went to the manager. He said, "Oh, don't get off the side. We've been through that before. We've been through it over and over, and we don't get the cooperation from the counties. We get the excuses that we don't have the educated workforce. We just don't ever. We're always the bridesmaid and never the bride." I worked with the Economic Development Department and with Oconee County, and we worked across county lines for what was in the best interest of our community. And I couldn't imagine why it had not been done before, because when you can have something that wonderful for your community, why would you not work toward it? But to go back to getting the commissioners to work with your vision, I was so flattered or confirmed I'm trying to think the right word, which I can't come up with it, but that the commissioners trusted me to negotiate on their behalf, because we came to them and said, you know, we have this possibility of a project. It's going to cost a lot of money, and I led the discussions. I was the point person for Athens Clarke County. There were many Sunday nights that I was down at City Hall on conference calls where we were with the Economic Development Department in Atlanta, and me and a couple of staff people in Athens, and the Oconee County Commission Chairman in Oconee County, working toward the package that we would have that would bring $200 million investment, 1,400 jobs, and a $57 million payroll for our community. And the Commission trusted me enough that they had no idea what the project was until the week before we signed the final papers, and I had been negotiating on this for several months. So we are already working as a team. When the rubber meets the road, the 10 commissioners and I are working together for what's in the best interest of this community.
All right. Candidate Denson?
I believe that the commissioners want to make an Athens for everyone, and that is my vision already. I've been working, I've already had a relationship with many of the commissioners for years now, just working with them as a resident and as an activist lobbying for things. And during this campaign, I've been meeting with a lot of the other commissioners that I didn't have as good a relationship with, and also a lot of the candidates. So I can make sure that we're on the same page, that we understand each other, and that we realize that our ultimate goal is to improve Athens Park County and to make an Athens for everyone. And one of those ways I want to do is, I don't want to be an obstructionist mayor. If a commissioner has something they want to bring to the commission, to have an active debate at the commission, something that we don't really see nowadays, but an active debate so that we can put something on the agenda that maybe doesn't have those exact guaranteed guaranteed votes there. Maybe you'll make our meeting go a little bit later than we want to. Well, that's okay. That's what we get paid to do, right? So I would make sure we're putting those things there so that we can actually debate them in public. So we're not making these decisions behind closed doors, not making these decisions at a work session that is no longer televised, that is not televised at all, so people have no notes of they get to be there. Making sure those decisions are also made in front of the public eye, and making sure that public input is allowed on the decision making. Like I said, it might make our meetings go a little bit later. I'm alright, that could be a night out, we can have that go a little bit later. It's what we're supposed to do, that's our job. And like I said, I think that another thing I could be doing is going out and actually having town hall style meetings in every single commissioner district is something I want to do as mayor. I want to make sure that I will meet in every single district every single year. And not the kind of meeting where I just stand and tell everybody the amazing things I've done over the last year. But a meeting where I get to listen. People talk to me. People critique what I'm doing. People give me ideas. People give me suggestions. People tell me about problems I might not be aware of unless I go to them. Because we can't expect everybody to have the ability, like I said, once again, with like having a transit system that's pretty inefficient, we're only running about once an hour, and doesn't go late tonight. If our meeting goes past 9:30, they can't get home, actually. So I want to make sure I'm going to them so they can actually give me that input. So we are on the same page. I'm making sure that this community is working for every single person, including those people who don't have the ability to come out to our meetings. So I think that the commission wants to work for the kind of vision I have here, because the vision I have here is for all of Athens. They're a part of Athens. We should be on the same page. We should be working as a team. And I should be giving them more power. Like I said, they can bring some of their ideas to the commission meetings and we can be discussing them in public. Not in private, in public.
Okay, we have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, actually, there have been no issues that I have not brought to the table for the agenda, with the exception of those that were brought to me at the last minute and did not go, that the full commission didn't know about. And I don't just bring something and put it on the agenda with no notice and no professional analysis of it. And we do have public meetings. We have a lot of public meetings. Anytime we're making changes, for instance, when there's a change at the Tallahassee Road and Lexington Road intersection, we had a public input meeting that was in the community, that was at the church there, right where the intersection is. We have meetings when we're about to change bike lanes. We have budget hearings. We have hearings on every item of zoning, on every zoning item. And I see Jim Thompson's back there. I took him to task a little bit about calling us a do-nothing mayor and commission, because the agenda that was being examined at that time had 9 items on it. And of those 9 items, every one of them had been through some kind of a public meeting, at least one. And I'll follow up on that later, possibly.
Thank you. And we have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Those meetings, the budget meetings, the major planning meetings, they're required. It's doing the bare minimum. I want to do more than bare minimum. I want to do everything I can. And there's a big difference there. And there are some things that we're not going to do in the mayor. I'm looking at one of them through the window out there right now, too. The Prince Avenue corridor study that was brought up a lot. And I know that commissioners wanted to have that put on there. They wanted to have a public discussion about it. I know a lot of the people in this neighborhood are probably concerned about that. I know that there was local business owners who reached out to you to let you know that they had concerns about that. And those concerns were somehow forgotten. And there are things that we could be doing more. And we could definitely, the commission has goals. They have visions. I've talked to them. They want to be doing more. I know they do, because I've had them tell me, we want to do more. There's things that we want to see done. And right now it's difficult. I want to make sure I'm helping them get those things done that are going to help their communities.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next question. With the protest on Monday against the ban on undocumented students from attending UGA. This issue was brought to local attention. What is your opinion of the ban? And this question we will start with candidate Denson, correct? Yeah. We're trying to switch back and forth and making sure I'm keeping track of it.
Denson or Denson?
Yeah.
This side of the Denson.
Yeah, I was at that protest, and I was proud to be there. I got my Freedom University shirt on right now. I support those people. Those some of those amazing individuals I've met. We're talking about, I heard a 16-year-old, a junior at Cedar Shoals High School, talk about how she was informed. This young lady had 3.9 GPA, had been at many different clubs. I mean, she was setting herself up for having an amazing success in college and afterwards. And she learned from her guidance counselor she couldn't go to UGA. She learned that she wasn't allowed. There was a ban keeping her from going there, based upon the fact that whenever she was 2 years old, her mother brought her here. Some would say illegally, but crossed the line, an invisible line somewhere that none of us can see, and that all of a sudden has broken the law, and now this 16-year-old girl at Cedar Shoals High School has to suffer the consequences. Can't go to our University of Georgia because our Board of Regents has said she can't go. She doesn't deserve to go there. I stood proudly with those people. I've stood proudly with them many times before. And I think that we should be reaching out, making sure that our community, once again, is welcoming to all individuals, but realizes that no matter their skin color, no matter where they were at when they were 1 year old, these people will be helping our community. I mean, these kids were amazing. Blow my mind. I mean, I'd like to get a couple of them running for mayor because they're probably pretty good mayors. Definitely get them on the commission. And we should be doing all we can. Now, what the protest was there for was they wanted to get President Moorhead to morally say that he was against the ban. They know President Moorhead couldn't do anything about the ban. They just wanted him to say, this ban is unjust, this ban is hurting our community, and I don't want it here. I'm a candidate for mayor, and I'm saying that now. This ban is unjust, this ban is hurting our community, and I want to get rid of it. And I know I can't do anything as mayor, writing policy to get rid of it, but I'll tell you this, I can make my voice be heard, as I'm already making my voice be heard, as I made my voice was heard on Monday. I will meet with President Moorhead and plead with him to speak up against this ban. I will meet with the Board of Regents officers and plead with them to get rid of this ban, because it's hurting our community. It's hurting these families. It's hurting these students. And I mean, some of their stories literally brought me to tears. It's amazing, and they are suffering for no reason outside of hate. There's no other reason. There's no other way to put it. It's hate. They're allowed to go to some of the lesser universities here in the university, but the top 5, we're not going to let them go there. They don't deserve to go there. And the fact that we are celebrating the anniversary of us allowing black individuals to go to our university while this ban is in place, to me is embarrassing. And I think we should be doing everything we can as a community. Because as some of those brave students said, they said, this isn't just my fight, this is our fight. And I believe it is.
Thank you.
I probably won't take my full time on this because I've tried very hard to confine my public statements to things that local government had control over. In Mr. Denson's program here that he has on his little green sheets, I've gone through it, and it falls under 3 categories. One, it's things that don't fall under the purview of local government, or it's things that are financially unfeasible, the money's not there to do it, or things that are already being done, because many of the things on this list are actually already being done. One of the things to mention is a livable wage in Athens, Clarke County. We only have about half a dozen employees that make under $14 an hour and get full benefits. So that's just one example. But there are numbers of things on that that are being done in the private sector. But back to the question that was asked about undocumented citizens, because I will never refuse to answer a direct question, and I get foot and mouth disease sometimes because I do that. But I'm not going to put myself in the place of criticizing the Board of Regents or Dr. Moorhead, but I think that we have got to find a way to allow children who have been brought to this country as babies, which I support the DREAM Act. And the DREAM Act allows children a pathway to go to college and to gain citizenship. But we invest in these children for 12 years, and we allow them to dream. And then when they get out of high school, we say, "Oh, tough, you can't get a job because you're not a citizen, and you can't go to college." And I think we've got to find a way to do it. But I'm not going to try to dictate to Dr. Moorhead or to the regents as to exactly how we're going to do that in our state. And we have, and I will say that students have not been banned from higher education. They can go to certain schools, and the schools that they're not allowing the immigrant children to go to are the most highly sought after and schools in the community. And who do you displace? Do you displace students that are citizens with students who aren't? But I agree that we've got to find a way to do it. But I'm not going to try. I'm not an educator, so I'm not going to try to dictate how that happens.
Thank you very much. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
They're allowed to do schools, but only some schools, only certain schools. Sounds familiar, like an issue that we had to deal with here in the South a number of years ago. We have to make sure things are changing here. That is not fair. And I agree. I understand that it does not fall under the role, in which I admitted, of policy that the mayor can have. I agree. But if you read the charter of Athens-Clarke County, one of the roles of the mayor is to be the official representative to state and federal governments. That's what I would be doing. I would be that official representative. I would tell them how I feel about this ban. I would tell them this ban is hateful, and it should be receded, and we should be welcoming these amazingly bright students. We should be accepting them on the merits of what they've done in school, on the merits of what they could be bringing to our community, not on their skin color and where they were when they were 1 year old. That's what I would tell them as the official representative to the state and federal government.
Thank you. 1 minute.
As the official representative of Athens-Clarke County, I do not make official statements unless it's a policy that has been voted on by the mayor and commission, and it is the official policy of our community. I have private conversations about my private thoughts with our representatives, but the best way that you can damage relationships, which damage the community, are to go out and publicly criticize the people at other levels of government as to what they're doing and how they're doing it. And those relationships are vital to our community. One example of that is when I came into office, our community had been trying for years to become a federally designated, have a federal designation for our health care, for our neighborhood health centers. And it just didn't happen because the relationships between the local government, state, and federal government weren't there. I asked our federal officials to help us become a federally designated health care center, which is bringing $650,000 a year into our county for uninsured poor people now.
Thank you. All right. The next question, we will start with Mayor Denson. And the question is, since the Guns Everywhere bill has been signed into law, as mayor, will you pay for the necessary measures to keep guns out of government buildings?
Well, this legislation is brand new. That we have not discussed it as mayor and commission yet. I've asked for an analysis of it from our county attorney as to what the exact effects are on Athens-Clarke County. As I understand it, it actually doesn't change a lot because right now in the buildings, like in the courthouse, you go through metal detectors, and so there are no weapons brought into the courthouse. We have a police officer that's assigned to our city council meetings, but we've never checked to see whether somebody had a knife or a gun or anything else with them. And right now there could be people in this room who are packing and we don't know it. And so, you know, I'm a Second Amendment rights. I believe in the right to bear arms, but I think we have to be sensible and careful about it. I'm very glad that the exceptions were made that colleges and churches could make that decision for themselves, and I'm not going to make a statement on behalf of our community as to what we're going to do, because if we start trying to put metal detectors and guards on every public facility in Athens, Clarke County, we won't be able to do the things that we're already doing, let alone the things that Mr. Denson would like for us to add to our budget of things that we're trying to do.
Thank you. Denson?
It'd be very expensive. This is one of the things I discussed with Chief Lumpkin. And he brought up, especially for our city hall, which if I win this election, I'm going to be concerned. That basically we just made it where a person can just come up with a semi-automatic weapon on their back and come up and address the mayor and commission. That's intimidating. But Chief Lumpkin says that, yeah, he doesn't think we can afford it, because we'd actually have to be put metal detectors on all 3 entrances. And also, if we're going to be using the handicap ramp entrance in the back, 4 entrances will have to have metal detectors, plus 2 officers every one of those entrances. 8 officers. So this one, I'm just upset that this legislation passed. And I believe that the state senator that first brought up this legislation, I believe, is actually donated to your campaign also. But I'm very upset about this legislation passing. And if I was given the chance, in the first debate I discussed that, it was asked if I would sign the petition that was going around, a bunch of other mayors had, if they would sign a petition asking Governor Deal not to pass this legislation, out of concern of smaller communities that have public buildings that they couldn't afford to put guards and metal detectors at. And at that time I said I would sign that, but I would first, before I did so, want to talk to our chief of police, talk to the law officers that actually would be dealing with the consequences of this legislation, and see what they thought. They thought it was a horrible idea. They thought this was legislation would hurt our community and put people in danger, that didn't need to happen. So after having that conversation with Chief Lumpkin, I was like, okay, that's what I thought. That's where I was. So if I had been given the chance, I would have signed that petition. Would it make a difference? I don't know. Who knows? This, right now we're dealing with having a very conservative legislator and a conservative governor, and there's only so much that we can do. Outside of that, once again, lobbying as a representative of Athens, Clarke County. Because most individuals I've talked to here, did not want to see this legislation pass. I also definitely, respect the Second Amendment. I understand that people should have the ability to bear arms. I get that. But there has to be a line somewhere. There has to be a line. We drew this line as you're happy with the universities and the schools and the churches. I was at West Ebenezer Baptist Church this past Sunday morning, and they were very upset and spoke about this law passing and how concerned they were that our government was allowing these kind of things to be brought into their churches. They were very concerned that that they even had to make a decision. That they even had to make a decision about this. They thought, obviously, you don't want to be bringing weapons into a house of God. Something we shouldn't have to be dealing with. And unfortunately, it's something we're having to be dealing with. I'm sad that we have to be talking about this discussion right now. But it's here, and I don't think that we could afford, at this time, to put metal detectors in every single one of those entryways. But we can try to work with our police department, work with our community to see, what other steps we could possibly take in the meantime to deal with it.
Thank you. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
And I did talk to our legislators and tell them that I hope that this bill would not pass, because I don't think it's good legislation. I don't think it was necessary legislation. But it's not just the city hall that we're dealing with. We've got the tag office. We've got the health department. We've got all these agencies that I've listed that are public places that would have to be set up with metal detectors. It's something that is financially impossible for communities to do. It would bankrupt many communities. It might even bankrupt Athens, Clarke County to do it. So it's legislation that I was very, very sad to see passed. But quite honestly, I'm not sure how much it really changes.
Thank you. Okay.
We have a rebuttal, right?
Yes.
It is.
Okay. I'm just a little confused then, Mayor Denson, that you didn't want to see the legislation passed, and you talked to our legislators, then why you didn't sign that petition whenever many people were asking you to. But that's neither here nor there because the time has already passed. But I would like to leave. We talked about finances, and I agree. We can't afford to put guards and metal detectors in all these buildings, all these entryways. So I'd like to take this time just really quick to talk about. I know it's been brought up. How are we going to pay for some of the things I'm talking about? The first thing I brought up already a little bit was that we would reprioritize our spending. Whenever we need to somehow get $80,000 so we can keep our bus fares the same price out and raising the fares, Why instead did we just decide to put that money towards the tennis center? We could have reprioritized that. We could have kept our buses at least somewhat affordable, instead of the $1.75 that we get on July 1st. We can make sure we're maximizing our federal and state grants. That's how we pay for the bus system. We would do the same thing that Clemson University did, divert the university funding through the county, and that would give us federal matching funds that right now we can't get. That would actually make up for the $800,000 for the fare box and make our system completely free.
Thank you.
There's a third one, see, I'll talk about later.
Thank you. She's waving the stop sign. All right, the next question from the audience. In the past week, the flagpole and White House have both released reports about the pressing issue of sexual assault in our culture, especially in college towns like ours. What, if anything, will you do in the next 4 years to address sexual assault in Athens? And candidate Denson, I believe you're first this time.
This is one of those things that when we first made our platform, the sheet that the mayor told about, and I think that most of you guys probably got one of these. I don't think the mayor has a platform, so you probably don't have hers, but you can please look through ours and see everything we have on ours. We created this platform by doing hundreds of interviews and surveys throughout our community. I went to Winterville with my staff. We did the east side, we did the west side, we did Timothy Row, we did Boulevard, we did 5 Points, we went everywhere. And did hundreds of these things and asked people, what are the concerns that you see in your community? What are the problems? What are the priorities that we should be addressing as a county government? And these are the results that we got here. I brought in, obviously, my own personal beliefs and my staff's and other people that I talked to. But those surveys and those interviews, that's how we got this platform. And I'm proud of this platform. This platform is something that I see as a true representation of the future that we could have for Athens-Hart County. One of the things that came up often, actually the number one thing on the list that we had a list of, I think, 25 different things. Number one thing was sexual assault prevention. And so we looked at this, how could we do this? We wanted to create, this is something the federal government did about 2 years ago, I believe, and the results just came out today. They created a sexual assault prevention task force, a task force that worked on preventing sexual assault. Not trying to deal with the consequences of it after it already happened, but trying to prevent it from happening in the first place. And the task force that the federal government did was specifically based on college towns because you see a large increase in college communities exactly like Athens, Georgia here. So, and they actually said that they're going to be putting down a lot of requirements on universities that they're going to have to be meeting. If they don't meet these requirements, they'll actually lose federal funding. So this is going to be a high priority in the next couple of years. I'm very happy to see that. But I want to make sure it's a high priority in Athens-Hart County as a local government also. So, and just to tell you about something, I know I went through these numbers a little bit here, but we had 16 reports of sexual assault happen in the University of Georgia last year. 16. The task force the federal government did, though, found out that only 12% of sexual assaults are actually reported. Therefore, if you do the math, you're looking at over 130 instances of sexual assault here. That's actually just University of Georgia. That's not counting the rest of the residents here, the other 80,000 people here, including, the 46,000 people under poverty. So what we could be, that basically comes out to every 3 days on the university, every 3 days, a student is sexually assaulted. Every 3 days. And for some reason, when this was brought up in previous debates, my opponent didn't think this was high enough priority. She said that she thought that we already had groups that were doing enough. We're not doing enough. I met with those groups. I met with the cottage. I met with Project Safe. I met with Chief Lumpkin. I've talked to these individuals. They said this is something we need to be doing. It would be helping.
Thank you.
I don't know why my opponent thinks that it's not a high priority with me. I've been a supporter of Project Safe ever since its inception. And I mentioned tonight that of the positions that I funded in our budget are 18 positions that we're going to continue and fully fund with county money for violence against women employees. These are people in the police department. But we have police trained. We have the cottage where when a sexual assault occurs, that we have people specifically trained to deal with those victims of sexual assault. We have yeah, I wish I knew the answer to how to get guys to behave themselves and girls to behave themselves, so that we don't have these problems to begin with. But mostly what you have to do in government is deal with the results of it, because if you don't know about it, you can't deal with it. So a big part of what Project SAVE does that I support, and one of the reasons that I gave them extra funding, is they have started a program where high school girls where there's telephone that you can call in to a lot of young girls don't even know what's inappropriate. And that goes all the way back to the Child Abuse Council, where we're teaching children what's appropriate behavior to them. You know, we have a program called Good Touch, Bad Touch for children, to say this is an appropriate thing for somebody, an inappropriate place for somebody to touch you. That's a bad touch. So it starts at the pre-kindergarten level, teaching children to respect themselves and to respect other people. So again, it's something that I've been working on for years. But a big part of it too is by example. You know, as the mayor of the community, you're not going to see me going out and getting drunk. You're not going to see me going out partying to that extent. And I talk to young girls and say, you know, you've got to respect yourself, and you've got to demand respect. And I talk to you guys and say, you've got to respect these young women. That's what I've taught my sons. That's what I've taught my daughters. I support the Project SAFE. I support our officers that are working with victims of sexual assault. I support our officers that are being trained to be sensitive to these areas. And I think we're doing a lot. Is it enough? It's never enough, as long as it's still happening.
Thank you. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Not only is it still happening, it's increasing. And we're not going to see a decrease when we are still dealing with victim blaming, and when we're still realizing that the number one thing we have to do here is just make sure it's not happening, that we're preventing it, that people understand what consent is. We're creating a culture of consent. Consent isn't no means no. Consent is yes means yes. If you don't get that yes, it's not happening. And we need to make sure that our community understands this. And yeah, I don't know all the answers on how we do this either. And that's why we create a task force. That's why we bring in people from the college. That's why we bring in people from Project SAFE. That's why we bring in people from the university, from the police department, from bar owners, because alcohol definitely ends up playing a large role here, from residents of our community, from students who understand some of the situations that can be put to them. And we bring those people together, and they come up with the tactics. They figure out together the things that we could be doing to lower this. It's got to be happening. The numbers are increasing. Every 3 days. We could be doing more. I'm telling you right here how we could be doing more. Let's do it.
Thank you. 1-minute rebuttal.
It's absurd to even use the term of blame the victim. I'm a woman. I have 3 daughters, and there is absolutely no way that a woman is ever to blame for a sexual assault. I don't care what you do or how you behave. You are not to blame. But you also do need to demand respect and conduct yourself in a way that you can command that respect. And I think that's a message that we've got to give to our children, because when our young women go out and party and drink, and then they're walking home, and of course they have not consented, and you're not blaming the victim, but they're not in a emotional state that they can say no and make no stick. And so this is not blaming the victim. It's facing the reality of what is and what doesn't happen.
Thank you. All right, we have 2 more questions. This one is addressing poverty. Poverty equates to low education, health issues, less people qualified for jobs, and high crime rates, or people with criminal backgrounds. What will you do to encourage local businesses to hire local citizens who may possibly have a criminal background? And we are going to start with Mayor Denson.
Well, actually, this might be a short answer too, because I actually have been talking with legislators about changing laws in the criminal justice system to expunge records so that people can have an opportunity to get a job. And we've got some programs in Athens Park County now that are doing just that. The Classic Center hires people with records in their food services. And in fact, I interviewed a young man probably 20 years ago who had a felony record, and because the kind of job that I was interviewing this person for, which was in the tax office, I at that time I felt like, and I still feel like I would have a very difficult time putting somebody with a felony record in one of those positions. But he actually went to work for the Classic Center in food services, worked his way up there, and he has a very good job now. I'm not going to say any more about him because it might make his identity too easy for everybody to know who it is. But when I see this young man, he comes up now and gives me a hug because we talked a lot about his life and how he could get on a better path, and he did. And so I'm encouraging those things to happen because again, when we talked about the issue with not legalizing but decriminalizing marijuana, small amounts of marijuana, like an ounce of marijuana, those kind of things are the kind of things that should not follow you the rest of your life and prohibit you getting a job. And so there needs to be a way to expunge some of those lesser crimes from your record so that you can get a job and be a productive member of society. And I've been talking with legislators about it, not just business people.
Thank you. Denson?
I do see there's a shift here happening, and I'm glad it's being taken notice. Actually, Governor Deal actually did pass a policy about 2 weeks ago, I think, so that now that people coming out of incarceration can actually get credit for training they did in there, and that credit can actually be official credit they can actually take on to a job, whether that be for plumbing or any kind of special talent they learned there. They could be using that, and I'm glad those things are happening, and so that's a small step towards it. But the mayor brought up another thing: we should just be dealing with crime here differently, anyways. Like when it comes to the marijuana decriminalization, that is a good way for us to be doing it because we're talking about 50%. I think we're going over some numbers. I think it's around 48% of people in jail are there for marijuana possession or some kind of nonviolent drug crime such as that. That is a huge percentage. That stunts our workforce. That does follow them for the rest of their lives. And it hurts them and it hurts our community. And the difference is, though, is I see something that we could be doing here. I've talked to a couple of lawyers about this, and there's other places in our country that have made parallel ordinances when it comes to dealing with marijuana possession. And my policy idea here would be under 1 ounce, possession under 1 ounce. So that whenever somebody was arrested for that, prosecutors could choose if they wanted to go against the state law, which would give them time, which would hurt their families, which would follow them for the rest of their life, or they could go against this parallel ordinance. There'll be a local ordinance, and that instead would be something that wouldn't hurt them for the rest of their lives. It would be a fine they'd have to pay up front there. That way, instead of hurting somebody for the rest of their life, instead of putting this giant burden on taxpayers, instead of us having to, as a community, with a citizen passed SPLOST vote, spend $77 million on expanding our jail. I don't think we're really thinking that one through. If we're talking about almost 50% of the people sitting there are there for nonviolent drug convictions, well, if we get rid of that, do we need to expand the jail to that size? Hopefully not. So we could be doing this now. There's actual steps we could be taking. Once again, like I said, solutions with a bias towards action. Things we could actually do. This is something we can actually do. This would help our community. This would help those individuals being arrested for those offenses, those nonviolent drug offenses. And it would actually decrease the burden on our tax base.
Thank you. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, I think we've talked about this subject ad nauseum, and I would go back to say that I think one of the reasons people get involved in illegal substances and things because they don't have hope. And the thing that I was most excited about when Caterpillar and Ethicon and we have businesses already here that are expanding their workforces, and that gives these young people in in schools, the knowledge that when they get out of school, there is a place that they can go and get a job and have a good life. So giving hope to our students is the best way to keep them on the right track in every way.
Thank you. 1 minute.
We could also be helping these individuals get to their jobs. We've talked about Caterpillar a number of times here. I ride the number 20 bus sometimes myself for my job and to get home, which is very difficult for me to do now because I moved to the east side, and to get from the west side to the east side would take me about an hour and 45 minutes. So I don't do it very often. My time is precious. A lot of people who rely on the bus, their time is precious. But I have ridden the bus out there, and at the mall, it's a pretty regular thing. You'll see a bunch of people get on with Caterpillar uniforms at the mall. The bus, that's as far out west as it goes. It's about 2 miles away from where the Caterpillar plant is. So those individuals are either forced to walk to the mall or catch rides to the mall and wait for 30, 45, maybe even up to an hour for the bus to come before they come back home to the multimodal center, transfer to the multimodal center, take another bus for another 30 minutes or so. Basically, giving them about a 2.5 hour time to get home before they probably have to go to bed, maybe be able to say hi to their family before they go to bed, wake up in the morning and do it all over again. We can be helping them out to make sure they can have access to to their jobs by improving our public transit system.
Thank you. All right, we have one more question from the audience, and we would ask that the audience refrain from clapping or anything like that while we're in the middle of the debate. And at the end of this question, we're going to be doing 2-minute closing remarks. And what we're going to do is, since Mayor Denson won the coin flip, she chose to defer the opening statement. So candidate Denson can make the decision whether to defer the closing statement, or if you would like to start, or whether you would like to go second. You go last. Okay. So we'll have Mayor Denson start with the closing statements, 2-minute remark after this last question. Okay. We chose this one last, by the way, because we think it is a great question to tie everything together, and very thoughtful, and we really appreciate all of the feedback, and we think it's been a great debate. Your campaigns and platforms might be contrasted by describing Mayor Denson by her experience and Tim Denson by his passion and poverty focus. How do each of you respond to the perceived strengths of the other? And how do you identify with the defining feature of your opponent? And I believe Mayor Denson starts.
I think the greatest asset that Tim Denson has is his passion. I met him when he was a part of Occupy Athens. He and another young man here in the audience, Jesse, came in, asked to speak to me. I invited him to come into the office, and we had about an hour conversation about their concerns and what they were doing. So was the question totally about my opponent, or? I'm sorry.
I don't want. I can. It basically. The question is, how do each of you respond to the perceived strengths of the other, and how do you identify with defining features of your opponent?
Okay. And the way I identify with defining features of my opponent is his passion for the elimination of poverty. And as I said before, past experience is the best predictor of future performance. And I have been working in this community to help people in poverty for 35 years. Again, I met Mr. Denson probably less than a year ago, not much more than a year ago, and quite honestly, I've never met him in this community before, and I've been working in issues that related to helping people better their lives and work toward a better life for themselves for 35 years, and our paths had never crossed until he was leading the Occupy Athens movement. But I do admire his passion. I admire his energy, but his passion is no greater than mine for making life better for everybody in this community.
Okay. Denson?
I think it was about 3 years ago. But It's okay. Occupy Athens was out there in 2011, I believe. But I do admire the service that Mayor Denson put in. I mean, the amount of time is great, and I do appreciate the different roles that you played here in this county, and I do appreciate the ways that you made this community better. And I know my experience is a little bit different than the mayor's experience. The mayor's experience comes from a political background. She's held multiple different offices. I haven't. This will be my first office. But my experience comes from, like I said, a different direction. A direction from just being a working class individual. I do go downtown and have a beer sometimes. I think most people do, and I enjoy some beer. I even make some beer sometimes. It's all right. And I've worked those jobs that most people have worked and lived. I work retail now, and I've actually held that job for about 15 years in one form or another. But I've also, during the same time, I've worked in agriculture. I worked in the mental health field, helping children down at Henry Glades Mental Health down in Florida. I've worked and run a record label cooperative with a bunch of friends down in Florida. I come from a diverse background, and I think therefore I can relate to a diverse amount of people, which we have here. This is a very diverse community. I feel comfortable pretty much going to anybody's house. I have to at this point in my campaign. Going up to anybody's house, knocking on the door, and saying, let's talk. Sometimes that talk turns into 30 minutes, and we sit there and chat about everything from how their kids doing in football to the concerns of their community and how we could be doing better. And I've also worked with a bunch of different nonprofits, Economic Justice Coalition, the Immokalee workers, trying to help them fight for better wages and better rates for their produce. I've worked with Freedom University. I've worked with Immigrant Rights Council. A bunch of different, and kind of learned the workings of our community and how we could be doing better, and also the things we're missing, the people we're leaving behind, and how we could be addressing that. And I believe I could be doing that here as mayor of Athens Park County.
Thank you. We have a 1-minute rebuttal.
Well, I've said before, but maybe all of you haven't heard, is that I think my greatest strength as a leader in the community and as an elected official is that I have lived on both sides of the tracks. I was raised one of 7 children, very modest circumstances, and when my husband and I moved here, we had adopted a child. We had a 2-year-old, and I was expecting what I thought was going to be number 3, which turned out to 3 and 4. It was part of the reason that we decided to stay here. But there were many times that I was juggling from payday to payday to make sure that my family and children had the necessities. And both my husband and I worked multiple jobs many times. And so I was not born with a silver spoon in my mouth. Because Bob and I made wise decisions while we were young, I don't have to worry about paying my bills now. And I thank God that I don't, because I think it would be harder to be in destitution when you're old than when you're young. But I'm not criticizing anybody that has a beer. I have a beer every once in a while, but I do it very moderately.
Thank you. And 1-minute rebuttal.
I love me some IPAs too. But yeah, and it was brought up. I do think that one of the things that I can bring to this job would be my passion, my belief in the community, and just my genuine drive to try to make this community better. That's why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for, not to dare say that you are either, but I'm not doing this for some kind of power grab. I'm not doing this to try to increase my popularity somehow. I think I can help this community. I really do. And I think I understand the needs of this community. And I think I have the skills and the ability to reach into the community, learn what they need, talk to them, open up to them, have them open up to me, and really work together. I honestly do, or else I wouldn't be doing this. And I really think that if you elect me as mayor, we can make a better community here, and we can make an Athens for everyone.
On that note, we have 2-minute closing remarks from each side. We're going to start with Mayor Denson, and Monique will let you know when the 2 minutes is up. Thank you.
Well, first I'd like to thank the Junior League for hosting this for us tonight. And I'd be remiss if I didn't thank you all for, in 2010, giving me the award for Lifetime Volunteer Service Award from this group. And it means even more because this group is all about service. And to get an award like that from this group was amazing. But as I said, I've been working for 35 years to make this community better. And this community is better than it was when I came here 35 years ago. When I came here 35 years ago, most of our black community were living in deplorable conditions. I am so proud of the Hawthorne Avenue development, which we've always referred to as PALDO, Jack R. Wells housing development, which is one of the oldest and was one of the least quality built ones in the community. And it's being replaced, and I worked with our housing authority to help secure the funding to make sure this happened. It's being replaced with a mixed-use development where it will be one-third market rate, one-third normal public housing rates, where it's a percentage of income, and then another rate that's subsidized for working people that are what we think of as blue-collar workers, like police officers, nurses, people that can't afford expensive housing. But this housing will be integrated together so that you won't know which unit is which. And one of the biggest problems that we have in our community with our poor people is that the children don't have the examples of successful people. They don't have people in their lives that they can use for job references when they go to work or when they go to college. But they will be growing up next door to people that will know them, that they will get to know, and this impacts your life. I'm going to end up losing the whole time here because I lost my train of thought. But I do not need another notch in my belt. I have nothing to prove. I've been in elected office for 35 years in Athens, and my passion and my commitment and my energy and my drive is no less than it was when I was 40. And I look forward to working for you all for another 4 years if you will elect the right Denson.
Thank you. And now Tim Denson.
Thank you all for having me. This has been fantastic. I enjoy any opportunity that I can have to come out and speak to you. Thank you, Mayor Denson, for joining us. We can have this discussion. I think that there's the big difference, and I think that it's kind of obvious. I mean, my opponent keeps saying, stuff like, we're already doing enough on that, or we can't afford to do that. And like I said, we can afford to do these things. I went through a little bit. We can be, making sure we're reprioritizing our spending so it's helping every individual here. That means keeping our bus system affordable instead of spending money to, on a tennis center and paying a tennis pro. That's only going to help a privileged few. We can be, maximizing our grants from federal and state grants. That way we can make our bus system free by diverting that money, just like they did in Clemson and Chapel Hill and Boone, diverting the money from the university through the county so we can get the federal matching grants, making up for the money, $800,000, that's all we have to make up to make our buses free. We could be doing that. And for some of the bigger ideas, like I have, like the child care, making sure we have affordable quality child care for everyone, for that one, I would simply put forward a referendum to the community so the community could vote on it to see if we want to do progressive property tax reform. So that we reform our property tax system so it's not only based on home values, but also on the amount of income that the household has. That way it takes away the burden from the poorest homeowners we have, the low-income homeowners we have, but while still increasing revenue. So there's ways that we can do this. And so I don't think we can just be saying, we can't afford this, we're already doing too much. I don't think we can do that. That's not in the mayor's realm. I think we can do something. I think we have to do something, because that's not the destiny of Athens-Clarke County. The destiny of Athens-Clarke County is not a 38% poverty rate. The destiny of Athens-Clarke County is not having over 130 sexual assaults on our campuses. The destiny of Athens-Clarke County is a county where we have affordable childcare for everyone, so that parents can go to those jobs and realize that their kids are being taken care of. Thank you so much for your time. My name is Tim Denson, the better Denson, and I hope that you'll vote for me on May 20th or early voting Monday through Friday.
Thank you.
Athens